Mike, good to have you on the program. One thing that was missing,
Great to see you,
though,
Alix.
in the forecast was your wireless subscriber forecast. Can you shed some light on that for me?
Well, we see ongoing growth. What I communicated yesterday was our aspiration is to lead this market in growth. Not just in subscribers, but in service revenues. And, for us, we have a unique opportunity here. What you've seen demonstrated this week is the value of our superior network asset base. We just saw AT&T and Verizon spend $80 billion trying to catch up with what T-Mobile already has, and yet still falling short. So we've got the opportunity to be the only company in the history of this industry ever to be able to offer simultaneously the best value and the best network. And that'll translate to market-leading growth.
How do we then judge it? Is it going to be 5G subscriber growth? Like, how do we then judge the success when you are still competing in spectrum with AT&T and Verizon?
Well, we signaled that we see service revenues rising to $70 billion within our planning time frame, and for that to flow to cash flows that are just an extraordinary value-creating opportunity. Now that we have all of the assets that we need for durable, sustainable 5G leadership through the entire 5G era, we have the opportunity to unlock massive cash flows. And ultimately, that's, I think, how we're going to be evaluated, whether that growth translates into value creation. And that's why we talked about not just the cash flow guidance, but how that could translate into shareholder remuneration with up to $60 billion in share buybacks in the planning period.
Yeah, no doubt. An impressive number. The one thing that you guys don't have is a wireline business like AT&T and Verizon. How do you sort of gain market share without that? Did you feel, what kind of disadvantage might that put you at in the short term?
Well, a couple of things. Our wireline asset, to your point, it's different from theirs. We have long-haul wireline assets through the Sprint acquisition. But you're asking a great question about access to each tower. And what we have found is in the United States market, there's a highly competitive fiber market. And we've locked up long-term agreements at very acceptable rates, in fact, terrific rates. So we have no limits on our ability to provide backhaul to our tens of thousands of towers, which are lit up with the industry's best spectrum portfolio. And that's what's really interesting. When you look at the spectrum that's all the talk in the wireless industry this week, what T-Mobile already has, which is more than what either of our two principal competitors have by a lot, is also better. Our 2.5 gigahertz spectrum transmits about 50% further. And so to cost, which is what your question's about, we need less towers than they do for a comparable competitive outcome. And that's going to translate into lower network costs over time, even without fiber assets.
But if you're competing with them in broadband and 5G, how do you not get into a price war?
Well, for one thing, we're going to have a big time to market advantage. Our network is ready now. We've been building the high capacity 5G network we heard the others promise about in the future for 2 years now. We're going to be at 200 million people covered with the ultra capacity version of 5G this year, not 2 and 3 years from now. And so what that means is we're able to launch 5G home broadband service this year to millions of households. And now look, so many parts of this country are underserved by broadband, it's an embarrassment. And we're going to come in and offer a viable competitive choice, lower price, great service. Once we've done that to somebody with DSL or slow broadband, now the next guy that shows up a year or two later had better have something better than us, not similar to us. And so we're going to have a big time to market advantage.
Okay, fair point. How many 5G subscribers do you currently have, and how do you see that growing through the end of the year?
Well, we're north of 10 million right now, and it's growing quickly because substantially all of our devices are compatible with our 5G portfolio. And so that means every time you get a device, you're going to be moving to 5G. And that's going to start to pick back up. You know, there's a lot of talk today about the reopening of this country and how it's now arriving. It's not here tomorrow morning, but it's arriving. And you know, we're a reopening company because one of the things that you've seen is we've been muted in this market when it comes to people switching and upgrading. Why? They haven't been in retail. Now that's going to start to take off again. And that's a great opportunity for us to accelerate our advantage in 5G, where we are miles ahead of the competition, and get switching going in this industry, which has always benefited us as the share taker.
Mike, I truly appreciate the salesman pitch for it, absolutely. And then I'm wondering how you look at the reaction. So there was a gap down in your stock yesterday. Today you are climbing higher, but if investor feedback is the stock price, why was that the reaction?
Well, feedback from the longs has been fantastic. You know, you always see rotation in stock. We saw hedge funds selling. Hard to say why, but overall we've picked up, as you noted in the lead-in, and that's great to see today. We're starting to see it settle in. But we spent a lot of time with the analyst community and got terrific feedback to not only the growth plans and the thought behind them, but the massive cash flow and value creating potential that we shared. And that's terrific to see. And I think it's, you know, we'll keep our heads down and go deliver and exceed this plan with the 8 or 10 upsides that we outlined. We'll let the market sort out the rest, but I'm very confident in this value creating opportunity, that's for sure.
And real quick as we head out, I'm just curious from where you sit, how are your stores doing? Are you fully reopened? Like where do you see your business, like the individual stores sort of playing out as we do open up?
All but a few hundred of our stores are open and out of a 7,000 store portfolio. So that's terrific. However, you know, the traffic levels aren't what they were. And that's what I think so interesting, as I was saying. You know, we're now poised as a country for a major reopening. I think we can all sense that it's coming this summer. And that's a fantastic opportunity in the near term for T-Mobile, who's always been the main driver of market share gains. You know, we're the beneficiary of switching in this industry. And it's going to drive an acceleration of 5G adoption when people start to return to retail. They're going to want those 5G devices, and that'll only showcase the fact that we're so far ahead in 5G. We have more geographic coverage in 5G right now than AT&T and Verizon combined. And that's going to be something we'll be able to showcase as people start to return to retail this summer.